Roll Tide, everyone, and welcome to TideTV This Week, brought to you by Thompson Tractor. I'm Roger Hoover, joined by Kira Goldstein, and Kira, it's time for a championship edition of the show.
Yes, it is. The Crimson Tide are SEC champions for the 28th time. So exciting. The final college football playoff rankings were announced on Sunday, and it is official. The Crimson Tide are the #1 seed.
After winning the SEC championship and finishing at a perfect 11-0, it was no surprise the Tide was selected for the #1 spot. There wasn't much surprise that Clemson was #2 either. Most everyone figured the committee would have Ohio State at #3, despite just playing 6 games this season. The next question was, who would be the 4th seed to play the Crimson Tide? Most thought it was between Texas A&M and Notre Dame, and the committee selected the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
So that means Alabama will be playing Notre Dame on January 1st in the Rose Bowl at 3 p.m. Central Time. Instead of the Rose Bowl taking place in its usual place of Pasadena, the game will now be played at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, due to COVID-19 restrictions in California. Clemson and Ohio State will play in the Sugar Bowl later that day in New Orleans.
The winners will face off in the national championship game in Miami, Florida on January 11th.
Alabama secured the #1 seed with a thrilling 52-46 victory over the Florida Gators in the SEC championship game on Saturday.
Alabama totaled 605 yards of total offense on the night, with 429 of those yards coming from just 2 players. Najee Harris totaled 245 all-purpose yards, including 178 rushing yards. Harris also totaled 5 touchdowns, 2 on the ground, and 3 receiving. Devontae Smith had an SEC championship game record 15 catches for 184 yards and 2 touchdowns. Well, Mac Jones had a pretty good game himself. Jones completed an SEC record 33 passes for another SEC record 418 yards with 5 touchdowns.
The Alabama defense held the Gators to just 54 yards rushing on 26 attempts. Alabama forced 5 Florida fumbles, recovering 2. One was from Will Anderson as he forced a Kyle Trask fumble that was recovered by Tim Smith in the 4th quarter. The other came on a devastating hit by John Mechie. Trey Dean picked off a Mac Jones pass and was returning it when John Mechie, delivers a huge hit, knocking the ball out of his hands that was recovered by Devontae Smith. Wow, what a hit by Mechie. Maybe he should try playing a little defense for the Crimson Tide, Roger. That was the hit of the game right there by a receiver. The Crimson Tide also totaled 7 tackles for a loss and 5 sacks, with Will Anderson and Christian Harris totaling 2 sacks each.
Really proud of our team for the way they competed in the game. I think I'm really proud of our team for the way they competed all year long. This has been a year of lots of disruptions, a lot of abnormal things happening, and the resiliency that our team has shown, throughout the season to win 11 games is, pretty phenomenal. I think it speaks to the togetherness on the team. Everybody sort of buying in and trying to do the things that they needed to do to contribute to the team. The game tonight was we found a way to win. I knew it was going to be a tough matchup with Florida because of number 84 and number 1 are really, really good players and tough guys to cover. And, they certainly hurt us. And we couldn't get the stops on defense on 3rd down that we needed to get off the field. So they ended up scoring a lot of points. But I have to give our offense a lot of credit. They answered the bell pretty consistently in the game. Over 600 yards. Smitty had 15 catches. Najee scored 5 touchdowns, had 178 yards rushing, caught 5 passes. I mean, these guys are pretty phenomenal all year, and they certainly delivered tonight when we needed them to.
What a game. 98 total points. Alabama gained over 600 yards of offense for just the 9th time in school history, but it's the 2nd time this season, as Alabama accomplished the feat earlier this year against LSU. It's also the 24th consecutive game in which the Crimson Tide have scored 35 or more points, the longest streak in the nation.
Mac Jones, Najee Harris, and Devontae Smith broke Alabama and SEC championship records. Najee is now the all-time rushing touchdowns leader for the Crimson Tide, and Najee is now 2nd all-time in the SEC with 54 touchdowns. He is just 3 shy of the all-time leader, Tim Tebow. Devontae Smith is the Crimson Tide's new all-time receiving yards leader, as he is also 2nd all-time in the SEC. And Mac Jones completed an SEC championship game record 33 passes for another SEC championship game record 418 yards.
And Will Reichert, he remained perfect on the season with a 20-yard field goal in the fourth quarter. Reichert has made 13 consecutive field goals, including all 12 attempts in 2020. The streak of 13 is tied with Jake Oldroyd of BYU for the longest streak in the nation. What a game and some amazing performances by the Crimson Tide.
A great night for the Tide in Atlanta as they win their 28th SEC championship. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. The Alabama football team held their awards banquet on Sunday. Selected by the players, Landon Dickerson, Alex Leatherwood, Devontae Smith, and Mac Jones were named the permanent team captains. Also voted on by the players, Devontae Smith was chosen as the most valuable player overall.
Don't go anywhere. When we return, we'll give you an all-access look back at the Tide's big SEC championship win over the Florida Gators.
TideTV This Week, presented by Thompson Tractor, the exclusive provider of Caterpillar heavy equipment and genuine cat parts for Alabama and Northwest Florida. Visit ThompsonTractor.com for more information. The University of Alabama, where legends are made. Ford, for great offers on F-150, see your local Ford dealer. Proud sponsor of the Crimson Tide.
Welcome back to Tide TV This Week, brought to you by Thompson Tractor.
What an SEC championship game between #1 Alabama and #7 Florida. It was a historic night in Atlanta with the Tide coming out on top.
Let's take a look back at the Tide's 28th SEC championship. This all-access feature is brought to you by Legacy of Hope.
The SEC championship game, Alabama and the Florida Gators.
Big games, it gets pretty simple in big games. It's turnovers, it's third downs, and it's red zone. These are two of the best teams in the SEC. Alabama from the West, Florida from the East, just like you want to see. A day with a lot of explosive plays, a lot of big plays, I think, on both sides of the field.
His first one got him down close, and Najee Harris gets him to the end zone. Touchdown, Alabama. A lot of pressure, and he stuck it in there, but no! It's intercepted by Trey Dean. And the ball comes out again, and Devontae Smith has got it back.
Quarterback Jones looks wide open. There you go. Touchdown, Alabama, wide open to Devontae Smith.
It's third down. Najee Harris made a man miss. And touchdown, Alabama. He does it again.
Here's Trask, steps up, and hello, down he goes. Looking right, Mack throws it across the middle, slanting towards the end zone. Najee Harris, touchdown.
Jones loads over the middle, compete. Najee Harris, touchdown, Alabama. Najee Harris again.
Guys hustling all around him, and finally he's thrown down.
I'm really proud. I wanted to know if we got in a dogfight, how we'd respond. And you guys responded really well tonight, and I'm really, really proud of it. I've never been prouder of a bunch of guys, not just for tonight, of what you've accomplished and what you've done all season long. I think you've done it because everybody buys in, great unity on this team, everybody plays together. This is something that you will remember for the rest of your life. Winning the SEC championship is a significant thing.
TideTV This Week, presented by Thompson Tractor, the exclusive provider of Caterpillar heavy equipment and genuine cat parts for Alabama and Northwest Florida. Visit ThompsonTractor.com for more information. Ford, for great offers on F-150, see your local Ford dealer. Proud sponsor of the Crimson Tide. The University of Alabama, where legends are made.
Welcome back. Now let's take a look at our Crimson Tide in the NFL Players of the Week, brought to you by BBVA. Derrick Henry continued his monster season this past week as he rushed for 147 yards and a touchdown in the Titans' win over the Denver Broncos. Henry, who led the NFL with 1,500 rushing yards last year, also had 16 rushing touchdowns a season ago. He already has 1,679 rushing yards and 15 rushing touchdowns this season. He's the king.
That is why he is the king. With Julio Jones sidelined this week for the Falcons, Calvin Ridley stepped up and led the Falcons with a game-high 10 receptions for 163 yards and a touchdown, and it was his birthday. Have yourself a day on your birthday, Calvin. Happy birthday.
And rookie quarterback Jalen Hurts had a big game in his second career start. Hurts passed for 338 yards with 3 touchdowns and added 63 yards on the ground and another score. Hurts finished with a 102.3 quarterback rating and became the first player in NFL history to pass for 500 yards and rush for 150 in his first 2 career starts. Good for Jalen.
After a big comeback from behind win over Furman, Alabama faced another tough matchup on Saturday against the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky. This game wasn't originally on the schedule, but due to cancellations because of COVID with both squads, the date opened up and we got to have ourselves a game. Western
Kentucky entered the matchup at 5-2 with both losses coming to top 25 teams, number 8 West Virginia and 23rd ranked Louisville. It was a close game throughout, with neither team leading by more than 6 points. There were 14 lead changes and 18 ties. The Crimson Tide led by 1 on 3 separate occasions in the opening 20 minutes of play, but the Hilltoppers led by a single point at the break, 33-32. Alabama took their biggest lead of the game at 3 points on the putback in the paint by Herb Jones. That made it 70-67 Crimson Tide. With the score tied at 71 with 23 seconds remaining, Alabama is called for goaltending, giving Western Kentucky a 2-point lead. Herb Jones had a chance to tie it up, but the shot wouldn't fall. With the help of the goaltend, Western Kentucky hangs on to defeat Alabama 73-71.
Well, there's some stuff we got to clean up. It's got to be an everyday thing. Obviously, that shooting, with the way we play, we've got to shoot the ball better. I think the last 3 games were 25%. I think 20 of 79 from 3 over these last 3 games. So we got to get better shots. The ball's got to move better. As a coach, it's all me. I've got to do a better job coaching our guys. We got to get them some better shots because we got some shooters on this team, and we got to figure out how to get our culture right to where we're bringing the effort it takes to win on a game-by-game basis, and it can't come every other game.
The Alabama women's basketball team was in action as well this past Saturday as the Tide hit the road to take on the Memphis Tigers. Alabama led for nearly the entire game and by as many as 18. However, the Tigers gradually chipped away at the Tide's lead in the second half. Memphis eventually took the lead by 1 with 1:39 to play. From there, Alabama responded with 7 unanswered points as the Tide held off the surging Tigers for the 74-68 win.
Jasmine Walker scored her career-high 28 points in the victory, including 7 of the Tide's final 10 points down the stretch. She was clutch at the free throw line, connecting on all 4 of her attempts in the final 12 seconds of the game, and also added a game-high 10 rebounds for her 4th double-double of the season. Walker was joined in double figures by Jordan Lewis, who had 16 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and a block. As a team, the Tide connected on 19 of 20 shots from the free throw line.
That wraps up the non-conference portion of the schedule for the Alabama women's basketball team, as Monday's game with Jacksonville was canceled due to COVID-19 issues with the Dolphins basketball program.
Alabama finishes its non-conference slate with a 7-0 record and will begin Southeastern Conference play on New Year's Eve, Thursday, December 31st at Missouri. Welcome back to TideTV This Week, brought to you by Thompson Tractor.
The Alabama men's and women's swimming and diving teams held their final meet of 2020 this past Thursday and Friday as the Tide hosted the Kentucky Wildcats.
The men's meet went down to the last event on Friday, with Matt Meeke, Derek Moss, Colton Stogner, and Matt King closing out the Wildcats by winning the 400 medley relay in a time of 3:14.81. Alabama won 8 of 10 relays against the Wildcats, winning first and second in the men's 200 medley relay and men's and women's 200 freestyle relays. Overall, the Tide men and women combined for 21 wins over the 2 days of competition. In the end, the Crimson Tide men were victorious over the Wildcats 202-87, while the Alabama women fell to Kentucky 206-182.
Each year, Coach Saban and Miss Terry look forward to honoring outstanding teachers in the Tuscaloosa community. This year, 47 teachers from the Tuscaloosa City and County school systems were honored at this year's Drive-By Teachers Excellence Award celebration.
It was a day filled with Christmas spirit as Miss Terry greeted each teacher with a gift card, also signed commemorative plaque. Let's take a look at this year's Teacher Excellence Awards presented by the Knicks Kids Foundation.
I'd like to welcome you all today to our annual Teacher Appreciation event. Everyone these days has to be creative in how we can get together, celebrate, and honor people. This is a day of celebration. We have 48 local teachers who were chosen by their principals for extraordinary work with children in the classroom and beyond, outside of the classroom. and they certainly deserve our recognition today. Nick's Kids has purchased $500 of gift cards locally, which support our businesses as well. So they'll be able to use the gift cards maybe for a little extra holiday spirit in their families. So we're proud to do this today, and we thank you for coming and joining us on this happy occasion. God bless and roll Tide.
Mack pulls it down, throws across the middle, it's intercepted. Intercepted by the Florida Gators, and they'll bring it to the near side. The ball comes loose.
John Mechie was with the hit. Number 8 dislodged it, and Devontae got it.
Goes in motion, far side. Mack comes to the near side, makes the grab. Najee spins away from the defense, and he is in for the touchdown.
Trask set to throw, and he is not going to get it, and he fumbled it as well.
And who recovers it? Alabama recovers it. Alabama. Quarterback back at the 5, steps up, gets drilled. It'll be Christian Harris as Alabama wins the SEC championship. And so what else is new?
Welcome back. Those were our ATI Plays of the Week. Now let's take a look at our Players of the Week, brought to you by Payless Drugs.
Well, it was a historic night for several players for the Crimson Tide in the SEC championship game, so why not honor all 3?
With the help of great blocking from the offensive line, running back Najee Harris scored an SEC championship game record 5 touchdowns, 3 receiving and 2 rushing, while gaining a game-high 187 rushing yards and 245 all-purpose yards to earn SEC championship game MVP honors. Harris's 3 rushing touchdowns vaulted him past Derrick Henry and Mark Ingram for the most rushing touchdowns in Alabama history with 44. His 5 touchdowns in the SEC championship gives him 54 in his Alabama career, which is the second most in SEC history, just behind Tim Tebow.
That's pretty good. Devontae Smith is also pretty good. He tallied 200-plus all-purpose yards with 184 receiving yards and a career best in SEC championship game record, 15 catches, 2 of which went for touchdowns. Devontae now has 3,620 receiving yards in his career. That total passes Amari Cooper for the all-time Alabama receiving yards record and ranks second overall in SEC history. Smith's 2 touchdown catches in the SEC championship game also broke the Alabama record for touchdown receptions in a season. Smith surpassed Amari Cooper with 17 touchdown receptions this year.
And our quarterback, Mac Jones, completed 33 of 43 for 418 yards and 5 touchdowns. Mac's 418 yards passing is a new SEC championship game record for most passing yards in a single game, and his 33 completions in the championship game are also a new record. Jones now owns 4 of Alabama's 10 all-time 400-plus yard passing performances, passing Tua Tagovailoa for the most 400-yard passing performances in Alabama history.
After scoring her 1,000th career point last week, Jasmine Walker followed that performance with a new career high against the Memphis Tigers. Jasmine scored a career-high 28 points, including 7 of the Tide's last 10 against the Tigers to seal the win, including 4 consecutive free throws in the final 12 seconds of the game.
Those are our Payless Drugs Players of the Week. Some amazing performances from those 4 this week, Roger.
Absolutely. Putting a wrap on the fall slate, you can essentially say, because Alabama athletics has certainly enjoyed a strong fall.
We hope you have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and roll Tide too.
Roll Tide.
This has been a presentation from Learfield IMG College.